Okay, today we're going to talk about slope-intercept form. Slope-intercept form is y equals mx plus b, which is the equation of a line. M is the slope, and that's the ratio of rise over run. So how much you go up and down, and then how much you go over left and right. B is the y-intercept, and that's where on the graph the line crosses over the y-axis. Remember, the y-axis is the one that goes vertically like this, up and down. So here is an example. Here's our line, and in order to write the equation of this line, we see that the y-intercept is down at -3. Okay, that is where the line crosses over with the y-axis. Now the slope, you can pick any 2 points, and I'm going to pick these two. So remember, it's rise first and then run. So I'm going to start with the bottom point, and I see that I rise up +1, so that's where I have this, +1, and then I go left, and remember, going left on the number line signals moving in the negative direction, so I put -1, and then 1 divided by -1 simplifies to just -1. So my equation in y equals mx plus b form would be y equals -1x, because -1 is my slope, remember from here, -3 because that's my b, my y-intercept, where the line crossed over. Let's look at another example. So this blue line is the one we're going to look at. So once again, my line crosses over the y-axis at the point -3, so that's where we fill this part in, the b, and then I'm going to pick any 2 points, and I chose, there's a point right here, perfect point here going through the grid box, and a perfect point right here going through the grid box. I'm going to start with my bottom point, and I see that I'm going up 3 and then right 1. So 3 over 1 means 3 divided by 1, which simplifies to +3. So my equation is y equals 3x minus 3. Now we're going to go in the opposite direction and actually graph them ourselves. So it says to graph y equals 3x plus 2. Well, remember, let's start with the y-intercept. So 2 is where on the y-axis my point will cross over. So here I have it, up 1, 2. Okay, there's my y-intercept. Now my slope is 3. So I'm going to write this as a fraction of rise over run, so I know exactly how much I'm going up and exactly how much I'm going over. So remember, any whole number is over 1, and that's how it's simplified to just 3, because 3 divided by 1 is 3. So I'm going to count from this point. Okay, my slope is always constant, so I'm going to go up 3, 1, 2, 3, and then right 1, because it's positive. And remember, a line continues forever and ever, so again I'm going to go up 3 and over 1. And that's good enough for now. I have enough points, so I can just draw a line through my points. Okay, and if you're drawing this, I would definitely recommend using a ruler. And then one thing you don't want to forget is draw arrows to show that this line continues on forever and ever in both directions. Let's try another one. Y equals -2x. So mx plus b. If I don't see plus b, that means that I must have had +0. Okay. So my y-intercept is 0, so that is where I'm going to draw my first point. And then I have -2. Remember, I want to try to write this as a fraction, so we'll write it -2 over 1. -2 divided by 1 is -2, and that's where we got that from. So now it's rise over run. This is -2, so that means I go down 2, and then I go right 1. It's +1. Down 2, right 1. And I'll go a few more times. Down 2, right 1, and so on. Okay? And then same thing, you can draw a line through the points. And again, do not forget your arrows to show that this line would go on forever and ever. Okay, let's try two more. So my y-intercept here is -7. So we can count down 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And now my slope is -1 over +4. So that means I go down 1, right 4. Down 1, right 4. Okay, you can go as many times as you want. If you wanted to go the opposite way, you can go up 1, left 4. Okay, but just a few points usually gives you enough for the direction of your line. Okay. All right, and then my arrows, very, very important. Okay, and let's try one last one that's a little bit different. Y equals 5. So now I see y equals mx plus b. I don't have an mx. That means my equation must have been, how did x disappear? Well, it must have been multiplied by 0. So 0x is why it's simplified to nothing over there, plus 5 is my y-intercept. Okay. And if I had to simplify this equation, I'd get y equals 5 because this would cancel out. And that's how I have it. So I'm going to go up to 5. And then I have a 0 rise and a 0 run. 0 rise and a 0 run. So this line, believe it or not, is actually going to be a horizontal line on y equals 5. That means no matter what x is, y is always going to be 5 up all across. So for every point of x, x could be 1 and y would still be 5. Y is just always, always, always 5. Okay, now we're going to look at what to do when our equation is not written in slope-intercept form. So sometimes it's written in standard form, which is ax plus by. Oops, and I have a little mistake here. I should say ax plus by equals c. So you see, when you have an example like this, our goal is to get y by itself because we want y equals mx plus b. So we're going to try to get this in slope-intercept form. So the first thing I'm going to do to get y by itself is get rid of the 3x by subtracting 3x on both sides. So I'd be left with -2y equals -4 minus 3x. Now lastly, I have to divide both sides by -2. So I'm going to divide by -2 here, and that'll cancel that out. And then remember, I have to divide this whole side by -2. So let's divide each term by -2. Well, -4 divided by -2 is +2. And -3x divided by -2, well, I could leave it improper, okay, but a negative divided by a negative becomes +3 over 2x. Now, because it's y equals mx plus b, right now I have y equals b plus mx, so I want to get the mx in front of the b. So let's rewrite this so we have graphable form. Y equals 3 over 2x plus 2. So again, now we have y equals mx plus b. So let's graph this. My y-intercept is up at 2, so let's count. There it is. And now my slope is up 3, rise 3, run 2. So rise 3, run 2. Do it one more time. Rise 3, run 2. Okay, then you can draw a line to connect your points. And always the arrows. Okay, let's try another one. So now I have negative 4y plus 5x equals 16. Again, I want to get y by itself. So let's start by subtracting 5x on both sides. So if I do that, I'd get negative 4y equals 16 minus 5x. And now I have to divide both sides by negative 4. Remember, this entire side gets divided. So we have divided by negative 4 here. And entire side divided by negative 4 here. Okay. Now I get y equals, this cancels out, 16 divided by negative 4, positive divided by a negative is negative 4. And negative 5x divided by negative 4, well, a negative divided by a negative, I have to remember, is positive. And then 5 over 4, which it is a simplified improper fraction, so I can leave it just like that. And now again, I have b plus mx, but I want it to be y equals mx plus b, so I just have to switch around my order. Okay, so the 5/4 x is positive. And the b, the negative 4, this is negative, so I have to make sure I write it that way. Now it's time to graph. My y-intercept is down at 4. And my slope is positive, so I go up 5 and over run positive 4. This time, since it's so spread out, 2 points is enough to draw a perfect line. And last thing is just for my arrows. Okay, so that is how to go from standard form to slope-intercept form. And hopefully you're able to make that change in order to be able to graph this very easily using your y-intercept and your slope.